In Canada, I believe it's clearly the case that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Deputy Prime Minister Freeland and also the socialist, hypothetically, Jagmeet Singh, who's propping up the Trudeau government, are aficionados of the WEF, of the World Economic Forum. That's absolutely crystal clear.
He won't answer questions on the floor of the House of Commons. He's even got a bill that would allow him to censor the internet. It's almost as if he admires the basic Chinese communist dictatorship. Will he tell us, does he still admire the basic Chinese communist dictatorship as he so profusely said he did several years ago? Yes or no?
Trudeau has put forth a set of policies, just transition recently, that are essentially aimed at eviscerating the Canadian energy industry, demolishing the forestry industry, and doing exactly the same thing to the Canadian farmers that the Dutch government is doing to the Dutch farmers. They've called for a 35% reduction in fertilizer use across the board, independent of how much fertilizer any given farmer uses per unit of food, not knowing at all that the farmers have strived diligently for the last 6 decades to be so hyper-efficient with fertilizer use, because it's expensive, not least, that it beggars description. I mean, they use satellite technology in their in the machines that distribute the fertilizer to make sure that it's never overused. And they're unbelievably productive. But all of that's going by the wayside, and it is definitely because, as far as I can tell, because Trudeau and Freeland and Singh are trying to please their globalist masters, and they don't give a damn about Canada as a nation, because, as our own Prime Minister has said, the whole idea of the nation state is archaic and anachronistic and also dangerous. And so you think the same thing is happening on the
Absolutely.
on the Dutch side, and so what do you think is characterize the globalist agenda for me?
Well, let's first say that Trudeau and Mark Rutte, our prime minister, are, I would say, almost basically the same person in terms of their political agenda, their political ideas. So Canada and the Netherlands are both pilot countries for the WEF. We are both pilot countries for the globalist agenda. But I think that the Netherlands is maybe even an easier target because we are already part, in a way, of a supranational organization, which is the EU. All of these policies come from the European Union, and they obviously base their policies again on the Sustainable Development Goals that come from the United Nations, and the World Economic Forum adopts those as well. So when I hear you talk about Trudeau, it's as if I hear you talk about Mark Rutte. They're quite literally the same person when it comes to ideology.
What a tremendous honor and pleasure to welcome Mark Rutte, the Prime Minister of the Netherlands.
So that is really important to know. And these people cater to that globalist ideal, which I think they are able to sell again to the population with this fake idea of virtue. So if you look, for example, at the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, there are 30 of them, or 17, I think, 17 Sustainable Development Goals. All of them, if you look at them, sound wonderful. You would think, oh, this is perfect. Of course, I don't want anybody to be hungry. Of course, we want to abolish poverty worldwide. But the answer is always a crackdown on actually your freedom.
Can you tell Jordan about how the Dutch government does not even want you to use the word Holland anymore?
Absolutely, yeah. No, I mean, our Prime Minister will not stop, I think, until we don't have a border anymore. I mean, technically, our border doesn't mean anything already with all the mass migration that we have coming in, which Michael did make a fair point about. For example, last year, we broke a migration record again. 400,000 people came into our tiny little piece of land that is already so incredibly densely populated. The majority of the Dutch people have been against...
How many people are there in Holland altogether?
We have about 18 million people.
What's the population?
18 million, and we are about half the size of the American state of Indiana.
Okay, 18.
To the point of the borders and stealing national identity. Just yesterday, that the protest where you led the way, where some people chickened out, but you took the lead truck. Excellent. While that protest was going on, the Extinction Rebellion tried to interrupt the protest that we were at, which was very peaceful. And a very happy event, actually, the one that we were at with 5,000 or 10,000 people. I don't even know how many were there. The Extinction Rebellion was blocking A12, right? Highway A12. And so the Dutch police actually asked the German Polizei to send water cannons over, which they did. They sent water cannon trucks from Germany. Polizei were driving in, Polizist trucks, and they started spraying down Dutch protesters. This is amazing to think about.
You would never have thought that 80 years ago, that we would join forces again in a military sense with the Germans, but now we have.
And one of the trucks, in a spate of just irony, it was Hun 2. Hun 2, basically the Huns are in Netherlands.
Oh, wow.
You can't even make up this stuff. I think I sent it to you, Jordan.
So they took the side of Extinction Rebellion, essentially, which is as radical an environmental
No. They were spraying Extinction. They were spraying Extinction Rebellion. But the funny thing is that the German police were in Netherlands using their water cannon yesterday.
So even from like a legal perspective, what is important, I think, to know for a country like mine and any country in the European Union is that a lot of our laws already aren't made in our country. They come from the European Union. So that democratically leaves a huge gap between the citizen and the laws that come in. And then in my country specifically, any international law has more legal power than the national law. How is that for democracy, right? So just that mere fact shows you, I think, that we can no longer speak of a really strong national identity and democracy in that sense.